Okay, everybody. Okay. We're finally back. I restarted my computer, and so this hopefully should fix all the issues. Like I said, it did yesterday. So I'm really sorry about those technical difficulties. Okay, so we're just gonna pick back up right where we left off. And so right before we had that UI freeze again, what I had done was come over here to the landscape tool and just started to create out a landscape. And so what I'm going to do here for the selection size is I'm going to switch this to like a 7 by 7. And here, I'll just back out in the viewport just a little bit. And for the number of components, I'm going to try this at maybe double. So we'll do like a 16 by 16. So we'll get something like this here. And then I'm going to click Create. So now we have our basic kind of landscape here. And so the next kind of phase that I want to go through here with this is just do a little bit of sculpting on this just so we have something here. So I just have the sculpt tool, and what I'm going to do, oh no, again we have the UI freeze. I think this has something to do with just CPU overload or something with the stream running as well. Okay, wait, there we go, we're back. All right, man. Okay, so here, like I said, I'm going to come in and just start to just sculpt out just a little bit of a landscape here. Nothing fancy, just a little something here to work with. So something kind of simple. There we go. And so another thing I kind of did just playing around was I used like the flatten tool just to kind of make a few little plateaus in this area here and so on. And this, I'm using shift here. I'm just kind of cutting into some of this stuff here like this. Okay, so we'll just go with something like this for now. So that'll be kind of cool. Now it looks pretty tough to see what's going on, obviously, because we have like this grid and stuff. So what we need to do with that is I'm just going to come back over here to manage, and here I'm just going to build my lighting for this, because I'm kind of done working with the actual, modeling kind of phase of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and build the lighting here. And that'll kind of get rid of this kind of grid pattern that's showing up across our entire landscape here. So we're just going to build out our lighting, and then we're going to get to the part where we actually start to work with the substances on this landscape. So we're just exporting the lighting data here, coming along. All right, now we'll just build it. Just really fast process here. Okay, so we've built our lighting, and you can see that now we can just get a little bit of a better idea of what we just kind of created here. Not a great sculpt in terms of the landscape, but it'll be good enough. Okay, so so the next stage of this is I want to start to actually work with the landscape material itself. So here in my content browser, I've imported in my Substance. Now, hopefully everybody saw that from before. In case you're just joining, what had happened is I had to cut the last stream off. I was having some issues with UE4, and so in that last stream, I just used my import to bring in the Substance. So now that we have that, I'm just going to double click this default material that the Substance plugin generated for me here. And for now, let's just kind of just expand this window here just a little bit, and let's take a look at what we have. So as I had discussed earlier, we have these textures that were generated by the Substance engine, and they're just plugged in here into the material. Now I'm going to hold down the Alt key and just left click on some of these outputs here. I'm just going to just take out a lot of these guys here. So I'm not actually going to utilize these outputs just yet. We're just going to move them kind of over out of the way here. This metallic output, I don't even need it all, so I'm just going to delete it. And so all I'm really going to be working with here in this case is going to be this base color here. And we'll keep it like this just for now. So let me just save this material. And then I am just going to, I'm going to dock this here up into the top of the UI, and then let's just hit our Untitled tab just to drop back over to our scene. And let me go ahead and save this guy in case we have any issues again. So we'll just call this landscape and save. Okay, so we've got our material here, and we've got our landscape. So here in the outliner, you can see that I have my landscape selected. And then underneath this landscape section here is where I'm going to have this landscape material. So let's go ahead and apply the substance that we have so far. So just left click, drag and drop this here onto the landscape material to apply it. So what it has to do right now is start to compile some shaders. So you can see that going, and it'll just compile these shaders, and then we'll be able to start to see our substance rendered or textured onto this landscape that we had just created here. Just about finished here, still compiling some of these shaders. We'll just keep waiting here. It'll be done pretty quick. Okay, so now we have, the shaders compiled, and now we can start to see this substance here on our terrain. And you'll notice that it's just tiled just a great deal, and it looks pretty terrible so far. So I'm starting to zoom in, and I can see here that I've got some varying exposure happening. So I'm just going to come over here to my light tab, and I'm going to come over to exposure, and I'm going to set this to fixed log 0, so we don't have that varying exposure issue anymore. And so let's do this. Let's select our light source, and I'm going to hit F to kind of focus it, and then use that to kind of help me quickly zoom in. So if I zoom in close enough, we can start to see the effects of this base color and how it's being applied to the terrain. But like I said, it's still just being tiled just way, way too much, and we don't want that. So we're going to make some changes to our material. So I'm going to come back over here to my ground material that I'm working on. And like I said, right now we just have our base color. So what I'm going to do is just right click, and here in the search, I'm going to start to type in landscape, and you can see that we've got several of these kind of landscape nodes that we can utilize. And the first one that we're going to use here is this landscape layer coordinates. So it's going to give me this layer coordinates node. And what I'm going to do is take the output of this guy and just plug it right here into my UVs for my base color. And so let's select this node, and we can come over here to this mapping scale, and now I can set a value that's going to allow me to change this mapping scale. So let me try something like maybe 25, and then I'll just save. So we'll save the material, and as soon as that's done, we can drop back over into our viewport and just see what's happening now. So now that I've saved that material, you can see that basically I've changed the scale on that, and now it's instead of it being tiled like hundreds of times, it's now looking a lot. It's going a lot quicker. So let me take a look at some questions here. What are the size of the landscape? Okay, so what I did on the landscape was I used, I believe it was a 7x7 grid, and then I set the components to 16x16. And I may have covered that in the kind of the previous stream that I had to cut off and start over again. Okay, so now you can see that we can use that node to kind of start to basically play with how this substance is being tiled across everything. So now let's go back, we'll double click this guy, and let's start just kind of working with how we're going to build this up. Now what I want to do with this particular material is I want to take two different aspects. So I want to have like this rocky ground, but then I also want to blend this dirt, this other dirt material alongside of everything as well. So what we can do with that is we can utilize a different node here that's going to allow us to blend some of these textures together. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's just kind of set this guy up so we can see what it looks like at first. So here we'll plug in our layer chords into our normal and our roughness. So let's kind of get that in place. And now let's take our normal and plug this here into our normal channel. And let's take our roughness and plug this here into our roughness channel. And then let's just save this material once more. And so what we're kind of doing here at this stage is this is going to be kind of like the base level. Like I said, we're going to have two types of materials kind of blending over each other. So this first one is going to be our rock ground. So let's pull back here and we start to see now roughness, and we start to see our normal and things like that applied. Let's work on our lighting just a little bit though. So I'm going to come back over here to my basics tab, and I'm going to come down here to my lighting, and I'm going to drag a skylight out here into the scene like this. So I want to start here with just a skylight. All right, so here's what we're getting so far with our lighting. So we're not going to worry about reflection probes or anything like that just yet, but here's what we have. Okay, so like I said, let's save. We want to be able to take and blend these two materials together. And I have this single substance. So one of the things I kind of want to show about this substance that's pretty cool. Here, let me just open up a file browser real quick, and let me just navigate to this guy. Materials. Okay, here it is. So here is my file browser, and here's the substance that we're using. So it's this rock ground SBSAR file, and if I just move all the way over here, you can see that the size of this guy is super small. It's 47 kilobytes. And that's one of the true powers of how we can utilize Substance, is it allows us to have something like very small that's going to be included in the binary of our either our application or game or whatever it is that we're creating. And these textures don't get generated until called to do so by the Substance engine. So, you know, being able to just have this as a file that's located into the project itself, you can see that it's only taking up 47 kilobytes. That's super tiny. Now, once the textures get generated, because it's a substance, I can generate these at any kind of resolution that I want. So it depends on, you know, what type of build am I doing? A PC build, maybe I want, you know, 2K textures or so on. Maybe it's a mobile build and I want something like, you know, 512 or something. I can do that. So now that we have this single substance package, what I would like to be able to do is utilize some of the parameters that I've set to create a new material that I can then blend over top of this guy. So to do that, I can just instance this substance. So I can do that by controlling this setting here on the instance factory. So I'm going to right click this node here, and here at the top I can do create graph instance rock ground. And then what that's going to do is, again, bring in the import options, and it's going to allow me to create another version of this. So for the material on this guy, I'm just going to call this dirt. And for the instance of this guy, just so I can read it better here in the viewport, I'm going to call this dirt, and I'll get rid of this too. So dirt and dirt instance. So we'll import, and now we're just going to make a whole new material out of this, and this is going to be just another version of that substance. So now that I have this in place, you can see that here under my dirt instance, if I double click this guy, I'm going to have some settings here that I can change. Let me just tear this off so we can kind of see this with our viewport as well. So one of the things I'm going to do, notice that I'm utilizing the same exact inputs and everything in the parameters. So I'm going to come over to one of my parameters that I have here called dirt and dirt rocks, basically, and it's set to 0. So I'm going to pull this guy all the way up here to 1, and that's going to change my textures, and you can see that they've changed down here below, and it's kind of hard to see until we actually bring those there into the material editor. But what I've done is I've just taken a variation of this substance, and I've just created, you know, a completely different type of material. So instead of it being complete like rocks, I've changed it to be kind of a dirt ground. And so I'm doing that all within, you know, the same substance file, but I did instance it, which created a new material for me. However, we're not actually going to use that second material. Let's just double click this guy and take a look at what it did. So here's the material, and so here you'll notice it's very low resolution right now, but it's just a completely different set of this from the substance parameters. It generates a completely set of different textures. Okay, so now let me just bring out my material here, and let me just break this off. And we're going to start to kind of composite together what our landscape material is actually going to become. So for now, just so we can see this, I'm going to just hit my Alt left and just blow out this roughness and this normal here. So we're not going to start with this yet. And let me just move these guys out of the way for clarity's sake. So first thing we're going to look at is our base color. Now I'm going to come back over here to my content browser, And I'm going to come in here to my base color for the dirt instance that was created. So again, this is going to be a completely different texture. And I'm just going to left click, drag and drop and place this guy into here. So typically what you would do with something like this, with this landscape material, is, you would import in different textures and you would set those up in a layer blend, which is what we're going to do here. But what's kind of cool about being able to do this with Substance is that I can make all these different variations of these textures right here within UE4. So I don't have to like jump back over to like another application to like change the textures or make them different or whatever I want to do. I can kind of make these changes here. And as you'll see, once we have these textures all set, we can then go in and make changes on top of that with the Substance parameters. But first, let's kind of set up the material before we get too far with that. All right, so the thing we're going to look at first is how we're going to blend our base colors. So I'm going to right click here again, and in the search field, I'm going to start to type in landscape, and I'm going to come back to those landscape specific nodes that we have. And so there is one here that I want to use called landscape layer blend. And so I'm going to select this guy. And then over here in the details area, just expand this a little bit, I need to create myself a couple layers. So I'm going to click this plus sign to add an element. So we'll do that. And we have basically a layer 0. Let's do it once more to add another layer, because I'm basically going to be blending 2 layers. Now you can do more than 2. In my case, I'm just utilizing 2. And so now I need to make a decision on how I want to do my base layer and what I want to do for the layer that's going to be on top. I think what I'll do for the base is just make it the rocks. So for the layer name, I'll call it rocks. Now for the blend type for this base layer, I'm going to set this here to be alpha blend. And then I'm going to come over here to the second layer. I'm going to call this dirt. And for its blend type, I've got a couple different options. I can do the alpha blend. I can do a weight blend, which is the weight blend. Basically, it doesn't matter the order that you're doing, that you're mixing these. You could change the order. Alpha blend is basically, think about like blending something like one layer on top of another, and you can erase one layer and reveal the layer underneath. Or we can do that kind of same thing, except we can utilize something a little bit more specific, which is this height blend, which is pretty cool, because what we can do with this height blend is we can utilize a height map to help us with this blending. And you'll notice here on the node, if I just kind of zoom in, what we have now is our layers. So we have our layer rocks, we have our layer dirt, and then we have a height input, which we set here for the blend type. So now that we have this node, we can start hooking things up. So let's take our color from our base color. Now this is the rocks. This is when we first created the substance, we generated the rock texture. We're going to use that first, so I'll just plug that into layer rocks. Then, as you recall, I took the substance, I instanced it, changed the parameters, which allowed me to have a completely different type of base color texture. That's going to become my dirt. So let's take the output of this dirt and plug it into the layer dirt input. All right. Now, the next thing I want to do is work with some height information. Now, I don't actually have my height information yet, so let's go and grab that. So here I'm just kind of moving this window out of the way just so we can kind of see our content browser here. And I'm going to come over here to my substance graph instance. Now this is going to house all of my controls for the substance. Now notice I'm using rock ground because I want to be able to generate the height map that I created in Designer to work with this rock ground. So I'll double click this guy, and you'll notice here that I have this height setting, and it's not enabled yet, which means I haven't generated a height output yet. So I'm going to do that now. So I'll click this guy here, and now the substance has generated the texture for me. So again, I can do it right here with the substance. I don't have to go outside of another program to grab it or anything, which is pretty cool. So now that I have this height texture, and you can see that it's kind of generated a thumbnail here for me, I can just left click and drag and drop this guy here into my material. Now let's just kind of expand this window again so we have some more room to work with. And for now, we're just moving these guys out of the way. Okay, so another thing that we need to do is we need to take our landscape coordinates and we need to plug those here into our dirt. Because remember, we set a mapping scale here, and we want that mapping scale to basically control all of the textures that we're working with. And so we need to do that here with our height as well. So I'm plugging that here into the UVs. So here we have base color for our dirt, base color for our rocks. We're blending those two guys together, and we're going to utilize the output here of this height as the height dirt because of the blend mode that we set here on this node. Blend type is height. So now we have that in place. And so now that we have this, we've basically changed, or we've set up what our base color is going to be. So now we can take this output and plug it here into base color. So I can just simply select these nodes. I'll hit C on the keyboard, and we'll call this base color. So this is going to become our new base color. So now that we have this, we're going to do the same thing for our other maps as well. So let's do roughness. So here I have my roughness, which I already know is from the rock ground substance. So what I'm going to do now, let's just move the window over, and here I have a roughness map that's generated from that second substance instance. So that's going to be my dirt, and I want to grab this guy and just left click, drag and drop him in here. So now that that is in place, I'm going to take the landscape layer coordinates that I've been working with. Let's plug those there into the new roughness map. That's our dirt. And now what I'm going to do, just for quickness sake, is just select this layer blend node and just simply copy and paste it. And then I can take my roughness output. Let's plug that here into the layer rocks. Let's take our dirt output, plug that into the layer dirt. And then again, here we're just going to use our height map. We'll plug that into height dirt. So just making a little bit of organization here so we can kind of see a little more clearly what's happening. All right, so that's going to take care of our roughness. So let's take our roughness and plug that into the material itself. And we'll select these nodes. We'll make a comment on this, and this is going to be our roughness. So base color, roughness, completed. All right, let's do our normal next. So here is our normal map that we have for our rock ground. We already have that guy. So let's just move our window a little bit to the side here, and let's grab hold of the normal map here that was generated again from that second instance substance. So this normal map is going to represent my kind of the dirt ground. So we'll drag and drop this guy in. We also need to hook up our landscape coordinates. So let's grab those and plug those into the UVs of our normal. And again, we've already copied and pasted that node, so I'm just going to paste it down. So we've got our layer blend. Let's take our rocks, plug it into the rocks layer. Let's take our dirt, plug it into the dirt. And then again, let's take our height and plug that into the height. So there we go. That's going to take care of our normal. And now I'm just taking my layer blends that I'm doing here and plugging those into the normal. So we'll select these guys and we'll comment this as normal. Okay, so we just about have everything set. Let's just go ahead and do our ambient occlusion here. Now, for our ambient occlusion, let's just move our layer coordinates down. Here is our height that we're working with. Let's take our layer landscape coordinates and plug those in there into the UVs. And then right over here in my content browser, again, grabbing the AO here from the dirt. Drag that in. Let me just check some of these questions here. So one question here, is there a way to instance the blend node so that I can make changes on one and the others follow? That I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think we can instance the blend node here within the material editor, but I'm not 100% on that. I'm definitely not a UE4 master. So, you know, if there is, you know, it's something that I would love to know as well, but I don't think so. All right, so here's our ambient occlusion. We need our layer coordinates. Here are, our landscape coordinates. Let's plug that there into the UVs. And we'll paste there into our layer blend. So we have that guy. And again, just following the same procedure, just hooking up my rocks and my dirt. And then finally, my height. Things are getting a little hard to see here. Let me zoom in. And we'll plug in the height. Okay, so we have that. Let's do our output here and plug this into ambient occlusion. And here is our AO. Okay, so now we've basically composited our material. So let me just kind of move this over, and I'm going to click Save. And so it's going to save the material, and we may need to compile the shaders again. So let's just see how this is going to go. Okay, so what is going on here with this guy? Here, let me just disable these guys here, make sure that this is working correctly. Ah, okay. I see what I did there. All right, so easy mistake. I'm glad that it happened. All right, let me just go and set back. Let me select this layer node here. Now, there's one thing to think about in terms of how this is working here. So each one of these layer blends, when I created this thing, they all have these preview weight, and you'll notice here that the preview weight for everything is set to 0. So obviously, when we plug this in, we're not going to see anything. So what I'm going to do here is I've got my layers, whichever layer I want to place on. Basically, think about what I did here for my rocks is I set the preview weight here to 1. And so since we have that landscape coordinates, scaled so much, it just looks like a blurry mess on this. But now if we come back and just hit save on this, you'll see that we start to get our texture back here in our viewport. Now I've unplugged everything else, so we're only going to be looking at base color. Okay, so we're only looking at base color, but notice that, the scale's right. We still have that kind of rock texture there. So anyways, let's go back and just plug in our other guys here. So for that layer blend, let's make sure that our preview weight is set to 1 on at least, one of these layers. And like I said, I'm choosing rocks because that's kind of like my base layer that I want to have. And then I'm going to utilize the landscape paint tool to paint in the dirt itself. So going back over here to this guy, preview weight, we'll set that to 1. And finally here for our AO, let's set this guy to 1. And let's just plug everything back in. So again, this blend here of these two maps, AO, here's our normal. It's going to go into the normal input of the material. Here is our roughness. And we've already have our base color hooked in. So let me just detach this guy here. All right, so there's our material, and let's just save so we can start to visualize this here in our viewport. All right, so now we have that set. Let me just dock this material now and then go back to my landscape tab. Okay, so here we have our texture. We have everything blended up, and as you'll notice, we don't actually see any of the dirt or anything out yet, but we've gone through the process of kind of blending this together. All right, so what's cool about this now is I can come over here. Let me just save this scene that we have so far. Now I can come back over to my landscape here and then come over to my paint tool options. Now, you have this section here called target layers. And if you'll notice, I don't see any of my target layers that I've set up in my material. And the reason for that, it looks like, to me, it's could be a little bit of a UI refresh bug or something. But all I've got to do is just come back over here to this guy, this rock ground material, and just reapply that. So let me make sure that I have my landscape selected here. And in order to reapply that, I need to go back out of this landscape mode. So I just come over to here and just come into my landscape. So the material's applied. So let me just reapply it one more time. And now I'll come over to my landscape, and you'll notice that underneath my target layers here, now it's going to compile the shaders again when I do that, but you'll notice that now underneath my target layers, I now have my 2 layers that I set up with those layer blends. So I have rocks and dirt. And now we can go through the process of just painting in, dirt where we want it to be and so on. And it's really cool. So let me come into, let this compile shaders just finish up. And then we're going to go in and start kind of hand painting in where we want dirt and things like that. And so, yeah, one other thing I'll point out too is, this landscape, I made it small, and I scaled all the textures up really large. Probably not ideal for like an actual practical example of how you're going to utilize your landscape, but I just did it this way so that, I didn't have to zoom in super close. So that we can just get an idea of how this is working, at a kind of a higher level like this. So typically with a very large landscape, even at this level, the tiling, you'd still see a lot of tiling. Okay, so we have this. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to come over to each one of these layers, and I need to create some layer info about it. So for this rocks, I'm going to click this little plus button here, and I'm going to choose to create a weight blended layer normal. So we'll do this, and then it's just going to ask me the place where I can save this. I'm just going to put it into the shared assets. That's fine. Same thing here with my dirt layer. So let's create a weight blended layer, and we'll do that and click OK. So now, finally, I have these layers. So I can select a layer just by simply just doing a left click on it. And then here I can change things like my brush size and so on. So if I come back over to rocks first, and I start to just paint these rocks again, you'll notice that I'm painting, but you start to get kind of like this black, kind of weird, kind of UI looking kind of glitch happening here. So one of the things that I do first is I just create like a super large brush, and I just kind of flood the entire viewport, with just the base layer like that. And the reason I do that is just so, when I go to actually paint something else, I won't get that kind of black outline issue happening again. So now we can go down to our dirt, and I can start painting this. Now the first time I paint it, you'll see, it starts to do this. Now it just needs to compile a little bit of shaders again here. Once this kicks in, we'll be able to paint, really seamlessly in real time. So again, let's just let UE4 compile these shaders up, and then we'll be able to really get down to the texturing process with that. This is when I need to start having some cool elevator music in the streams, when things like this are happening. So I need to have like a little, music track going for that. All right, so here we go. You can see that, I started to paint some of that dirt, and again, I'm just coming in and just painting the dirt. And I can blend these guys together. It's really great. And it's also being blended based on that height map that I placed in as well, which is partly from that rock. So if I start to just paint here in the viewport, you can see where I'm getting some of this cool blending here between these layers. Now I can hold down the Shift key to kind of erase that and bring that kind of back. So here, I think I'll just increase my brush size a little bit, and then just start to kind of go in and just paint in some of these areas like this. My landscape sculpt wasn't super super nice, so it's not as cool as it could be. The example that I was working on yesterday, I thought came out pretty cool. But like I said, if I want to come back and just kind of hold down Shift and left click, I can kind of paint some of these rocks back in and so on. So I'm just going to kind of do something like maybe this here. And here, let's get a little bit more rock in this area like this. Okay, so let's just say that for demo's sake that I've gone through and just kind of painted in some of these areas. So now I'm blending in 2 sets of textures for all of my channels that are actually driven by substances. So now I can come back to my substance. And let's just come over here to where I had my rock ground instance. And it's taking over the whole screen. We don't like that. Let's tear it off. And let's make some changes. So the first thing is that my output size is 256 for all these textures. And we don't want that. So I'm going to come over and set this up to, let's say, 1K. And it'll take just a second here for the engine to generate those. There we go. Little scared to do it, but let me go over and check my project settings here for my substance. Because this is in the first stream. If you were there, you saw that this is where we started getting some trouble. Yeah, see my memory budget? I'm going to pull that up to 2K. All right, whew. That was scary, but we did it. Okay, so now you can see that I'm getting a lot more fidelity here on my rocks because I've changed my resolution. I can also do some different things too, like all my patterns, everything's going to work. So let me switch my pattern out here. So I'm going to swap this here to pattern 2, which gives me just a different rock look. And you can see that it just changes instantly when I change my substance. I can now still go back and start to paint some dirt in here as well. So I can come in and start to work with my dirt, change some of these. You can see I'm just holding down shift to erase it and so on. It's really cool that you can do that. Also, I've got some puddles, so let me just pull the puddles in. And so now I can start to get a little bit of puddle in this area. It's kind of hard to see with the second pattern. Let me rotate some of my, let me use my rotate command here. This changes the shape just a little bit. If I wanted to create like a different type, I've got some rock striation here I could dial in if I wanted to. Not really applicable in this case, so let me just keep that up. Let me go back to my first pattern because it shows the puddles a little bit better. There we go. So like if we look at this up here towards the top, well here, let's do this. Let's go in and just erase out some of our rock, erase out some of our dirt and show this in here. And so now you can see that I've got some puddles in here that I'm working with. So I've got my skylight. Let's just come over here to our visual effects and let's grab a spherical reflection map. Let's bring this guy in. We'll set up some of these. Whoops. Let me hit F to focus that. Kind of went a little crazy there on my mouse movements. So let me just set one of these guys in, and then I'm just going to duplicate it and move it over. Again, this isn't like super ideal on the way I'm doing this demo here, but you know, just gets just a demo for now. Using these huge reflection captures here on this kind of smaller landscape, but anyways. Yeah, so there you can see I've kind of got some puddles and things like that in there, and then again, just go back over to my paint. And I can start to just paint these in and out. I've also noticed that with my rocks, those guys are set pretty low too. So let's just double click here. Let me dock that instance onto here. And that guy's set at 256. Let's put him at maybe well, let's do 1024 as well. So here I could change just the rocks to maybe 512 or something like that if I wanted. Okay, let me go back over to my ground, and another thing I think I might change is I also have that same dirt rocks kind of pattern on that. So let me come over here and take my dirt and rocks and just add a little bit of this in on top of my rocks. And what that's going to do is just give, here, let me change my brush size down real low. And what that's going to do is kind of give a little bit of a hint of like maybe a little bit of dirt kind of landing on top of these rocks. You can start to see where the rocks start to show through in the puddles, and that's just the way the substance is actually created. So here's what we're getting. So it's really cool that you can create these blends. They're seamless. Here you can start to see the puddles a little bit better from this angle here. Oh, you know what? In my dirt, I actually have the ability to add in some puddles. Let's do that. Here we go. I think that's really cool how that's working because you can see that, you know, the water here from the rock, you know, it's it's more of like a pulling type water puddle. And then over here in the mud or the dirt, you can see where, it looks more like it's, well, it looks more like mud where it's kind of more saturated into that dirt. And so you get a really cool blend between those two guys as well, which is pretty neat as we come in across here like this. So here we'll go and save these guys. And so here's kind of like a cool landscape that I'm doing, just using the same substance, instance it twice, use some of the different textures from each substance to build up my landscape material. I could then go through and just paint blending across my landscape as I wanted from these two different substances, and then utilize the substance parameters again, even with everything painted here on the landscape. I can still utilize all my substance parameters and such. So one other thing that I want to do with this as well is introduce some offset here, some displacement. So let's take a look at that. So here is my material for my landscape that we have so far. And I'm actually going to set up some displacement here. I'm actually going to use the world position offset for this. So let me show you how I do that. I need to grab a couple extra nodes here. So I'll just right click. And the first thing I'm going to need is this vertex normal world space node. So let's grab this guy, zoom in just in this area so we can see what we're building up here. And then I'm going to need a constant. So in this case, I could make this a parameter that I could use, but I'm just going to I'll call it hard coding here in the material. So I'm just going to use a constant. So I'll hit 1 on the keyboard and left click to just create a constant here. And this is going to act like the distance for this. So I'm going to set this to something like maybe 125. So I've got like this guy here. And then I need to multiply this distance with my height node. So let's hit the M key and then left click to give us a multiply. So we'll take this 125 and put it here into this B. And let me go grab my height. So as you recall here, we're using our height map. Just here, we're using it for some of the blending. So let's take the output out of that guy and just plug it here into A. All right, so we have that. And now what we're going to do is just multiply in that vertex normal world space data here. So again, just hit M, left click to get a multiply, plug this into A. Let's take the operation here from this multiplication and plug this here into B. All right, so this right here is actually going to go into our world displacement. Actually, instead of using position offset, I actually meant to say displacement. That's what we're going to be working with. It's grayed out right now. So with that material selected, I need to scroll down here to where I have some tessellation, and I need to enable tessellation on this. And so let me set this to flat tessellation. So let me just check some questions that came in here. Is it possible to paint input images for the substances inside of Unreal? Yeah, I think so. That's something else that I'm really interested in doing as well. Like you said, like a weight map for the puddles. One of the things that I want to try to do is, and I don't know if this will work or not, but I thought about trying to do well, it's vertex painting though. See, one thing I was thinking would be really cool is if like you could do like vertex painting and have that data get fed down into the substance, but the substance can't read that data. So I don't know if you could just, unfortunately, I don't know enough about UE4 just yet to know about how that paint tool works. But if you could get that paint data, if you can actually just paint like mass data or something like that, then you could plug that into the input of a substance. But one problem that we may have with that, and it's something I'm kind of trying to experiment with, is that if you have a substance, so if we just come over here, if we have a substance, and in our substance properties, here, let me just double click to open this up. So like here in our inputs, if you had like a substance that took an input in, so inside of Substance Designer, what that would probably look like is just a grayscale input node. It would show up here within UE4. But if you clicked it, it wouldn't actually let you look at any of the data, or any of the content you have in your content browser. Basically, it would look at it, but it wouldn't like let you see any images that you had. What you have to do to utilize an input image in a substance is you have to use, if we go to import here, and I click this button, just from all file types, let me just scroll. Where is this guy? There it is. So you need to use this specific format here, this substance image input. So once that is utilized, then the substance can understand it. So it's something that I'm thinking about too. I think it'd be really awesome if you could do that, but I don't really think it's possible in the current implementation. But I don't know. I'm talking with some of the engineer guys. I'm trying to come up with a way to do that. I think it'd be really awesome. So long explanation there to your question, but I don't think it's possible, but I don't know. Keep looking at it. Hopefully we can do that. Okay, so just going back over to our ground material. You'll notice now that we have here this world displacement. So let's take our output here from this multiply and plug this guy in. I'm also going to use another constant here. So I'm just going to hit 1 and left click. And this is going to be like a multiply factor. So I'm just going to keep this at 2. And then take this constant and plug it into my tessellation here. My tessellation multiplier. And let's pull this guy out like this. And here we got to save our material again. And so here we'll just let that save. I'm trying to remember if when I do this, if it makes me try to compile shaders again. I'm not sure. We'll see. But yeah, this takes just a little bit here to save this. Then it'll, yeah, I think we got to compile shaders. That's right. So we've got a lot of them to compile. So again, this would be my great time to hit the button for the elevator music, you know, so we can listen to some nice music while we wait. But I always forget to do that. Actually, I don't think I would. It'd probably be pretty annoying. But anyways, so yeah, we compile the shaders. And what we're doing here is just, you know, creating basically some world displacement here, utilizing the height map from our rock, basically our rock instance that we created from the substance. And then we'll, you know, basically have our material set like we wanted to. Now, what's also awesome is while we have that displacement on, we can still go back and paint out areas or paint in dirt areas and so on. And in this particular case, I'm only showing that I have just these 2 layers, but you could create more layers. Like another thing I thought about doing was, so yeah, you can see it's starting to come in now. Another thing I thought about doing was maybe duplicating my substance that I did for the rock ground, because notice that I had those 2 different rock patterns, and then maybe I could use pattern 2 in areas where it's kind of mounded up like this, because it gives me a different type of rock. I also had a section where I could add in those rock striations. Now that looks pretty cool when you're looking at more cliff type rocks. So maybe I sculpted in my landscape some cliff like areas. So maybe then on that layer blend, I could, you know, utilize the version that's going to give me the rock striations and stuff. So you can really kind of mix and match and blend these guys together pretty well. Just for this demo, I used 2, but I don't know, there's a lot of cool possibilities with that. And anyways, I thought this was really cool that you could, you know, utilize this in UE4 like this landscape tool. I thought was pretty neat. I've just been playing with it. And I also really enjoyed the aspect of using Substance with this, because it gives me so much flexibility in the way that I can just, you know, mix and match parameters and make changes right here within the editor without having to say, oh, you know what, maybe I could have, you know, changed the color on those rocks, or I could have done this. I could do all that right here, and you can see that, again, it just updates, you know, the viewport here as it works, as it generates the texture. So it's awesome that you don't have to keep jumping back and forth between programs. So we're almost done here. I was trying my best there to do a nice little, you know, long, drawn-out explanation of what I'm doing while we're waiting, so we just don't hear silence. But just about finished. One other thing that I think is probably going to happen with this is we might start to see a bunch of flickering everywhere, and that was really giving me some problems. And I wanted to show, yep, there we go. See how you see this flickering? No problem, we can fix it though, and that's cool because it took me a while to research this, but I figured out what was happening. All right, so there's an update to UE4 that fixes this here if you're using like, you know, world position displacement or offset. Let's come over here to out of our landscape mode, and let's select our landscape itself. Notice again, when I select the landscape, it stops doing that. But if I come over here to anything else, like say I go back to my light source, we get this crazy flickering. So let's go back to our landscape. Now, this is actually new in UE4, so it was 4.12.5. 4.12.5, you'll see that we have this option here for negative z-bounds and positive z-bounds. And so here you can understand, basically, or read the description that they have here. But it's basically going to allow us to kind of offset this position here if we're using displacement. So in my case, I'm going to choose something pretty high because I had like a 125 position is what I was using. So I'm going to set this to like 200 and 200. So now when I go back to say something like my light source, the flickering's gone. So that's how you fix that. And now let's go back over, whoops, let's pull this guy out here. So again, I could have made a parameter for this if I instanced this material, but let's grab this guy and set this up to like maybe 165. Just to get a little extra displacement there. It's probably, hopefully not going to have to, I bet you we do have to compile the shaders again, but we'll see. But anyways, you can start to see some of the displacement details, a little subtle, so I wanted to kind of just bring it in here just so we can, get a little bit better view of it. So I'm just going to crank it up a bit more. Yeah, so we'll compile them again. Okay, so while that's working, what we can do is just take a look again at what we kind of have here. So let's come over to this section. All right, so we'll select these nodes here, and I'll hit C to make a comment, and we'll just call this displacement. So that's what that section is here. So yeah, just as a quick recap of kind of what I did, you can see that, we've got our landscape coordinates. So if we select this, you can see that it lets us change our mapping scale. Then, we have, two different types of textures here. So we've got base color, rough, and normal, and so on. And I created, my substance, so it's just one substance file, created an instance of it, which does create a second material. Although, as you can see, we're not using that second material at all. It doesn't even matter to us. We could delete it. We just wanted to get the textures out of the substance. So we're still only using this one material here on our landscape, which is cool. But we have our textures that we can utilize. So like I said, then I just drag and drop these textures from the second substance, which represents kind of my dirt. Change some of the parameters to make that material completely change. And then I came in and just used this layer blend node. So here with this layer blend node, basically I created two layers, rocks, dirt, and then I changed the blending mode on these guys. So the first one is set to alpha blend. That's the one that's kind of on the base level. And also recall, because this gets me pretty much every time, you need to set a preview weight. So you can see what's going on. You could set a preview weight for any layer that you want, and that's going to be the layer that shows at whatever depth that you have. So for the second one, again, I'm choosing dirt, and I have the preview weight set to 0, so we don't see anything. Well, we wouldn't anyways because of the blend type that I'm using, but I'm going in and just blending that based on that height information again from that texture. So yeah, once we set those guys up, you can see that they're just blending everything together. We feed those in, and then we set our displacement up to get that to work like we want. So we'll get this guy back, and we're almost finished here with our compiling, and we still will be good on that z-bounds setup here. All right, so there we go. And so here we have our material. And now, like I said, I could come back over here to my landscape here. I could probably try to maybe crank this up even more. I'm not going to, but yeah, we could go in and start to work with that. You can start to see it here. It doesn't look so flat anymore. So yeah, like I said, we can come back over here to our paint. And if I wanted to come back over to, let's say, my dirt, let me increase my size. And now, again, I can still keep painting with this, even though that I have, all that displacement and everything put back on it. So here I'm just holding down shift to paint some rocks back in over top of that blending of that. So very, very cool that works that way. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that I really wanted to showcase in this stream. Unfortunately, I hate that we had that first technology glitch there with the freezing everything. You can see that just restarting my computer, UE4 runs fine after that. I don't know. I'll try maybe asking the forums what's going on with that, or if anybody else runs into that to me, let me know. But it just started happening when I upgraded to 4.12.5 basically. But yeah. Anyways, we were able to get everything going, and you can see that using substances with the landscape tool in UE4 is actually pretty cool, and it works well, and the way the paint tool and everything's set up is pretty awesome as well. So one other thing that we do have as part of demos that we've done before too is that you can also utilize similar techniques like this with just vertex coloring. So one of the questions that went a while back was, can we do this? Can we paint a map that gets fed directly in? I don't think that's really possible currently, but we could set up a material blend, not using the landscape, but we could set up, if you wanted to do this, like say a brick wall where you're going to paint, some moss or something like that on it, you could again do something very similar and use, vertex coloring as the mask between those. So the masking is actually happening inside the UE4 material, like we're doing here. So that's another thing that I really like about the UE4 integration with Substance is that, we basically, you have this UE4 material, but we can augment this, as much as we want. So the substances are here. They can be used as base inputs that can change with parameters, so you can get those base textures, but then you can modulate this or create various effects on top of that. So the substance can be a base to give you those textures. If they're procedural, you can see that it comes in at hardly nothing, 47 kilobytes. And then you can actually build more complex blendings, like maybe you want to add the moss or grass or something like that. You want to do that completely here within UE4 so that you could then, instance that material to save on performance and then have some parameters that are tweakable on the instance material that's just driving like moss height or something. So maybe the two textures are generated, the moss texture and the brick texture is generated directly from the substance, but then all of the kind of procedural control of that, in a sense, or I won't say procedural, I'll say the blending control of that in the material is done within the UE4 material itself. So you really can have the best of both worlds there with how that's going to work with Substance. Okay, so I'll go ahead and save this guy out. This materials actually can be found on Substance Share. So if you guys are interested in just looking at, how I did this material, and like I said, I have that course that I did, it's a while back, and it's in the Substance for Unity. You could watch that. It shows step by step how I created this entire material. And just the final like 2 videos is just Unity specific. So again, that's kind of why I wanted to address creating a landscape in UE4. So, those users could see how, I'm utilizing the same substance. Okay, so I'm going to close out the stream for today. I just want to thank everybody for actually coming back and joining me again. I'm sorry that first one kind of dropped out on me like that. But again, thanks everybody for being patient and jumping back in. So we're not going to have a stream next week because we have a couple events. We've got Substance Days that's coming up. So we are going to have some master classes happening on Thursday and Friday. The keynote address that we're doing is actually going to be live streamed. So with that, you will be able to watch that. So we're not actually streaming the master classes, but the other events like the keynote will be live streamed, and you guys could see that as well. So that's going to be something free that you can check out. I'm also going to be looking at doing some maybe some Periscope streams from our Twitter account while we're there too. So if you're subscribed to our Twitter account, just look out for those. Might be cool. Might try to get some cool interviews and things like that while we're there. We've got a lot of really, really cool artists that are going to be at Substance Days. Also with that, we have a new release of Substance Painter coming up. I believe it's next week as well too. So we'll have some new training videos to show off these new features. We have some really cool stuff to show. Won't talk about it just yet, but stay tuned for that. We will not be at Gamescom in Germany, I do not think. I haven't heard anything like that, but I don't know. I can ask our team, and if so, we'll be sure to tweet that out. If any of our if any of our guys are going to be there, but I'm not sure. But I don't think so. Yeah, so thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next stream. This guy's going to be archived on Twitch as well as uploaded to our YouTube video. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you on the next stream.